Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Welcome to part 2 of my journey into activism. Last week we looked at laying the groundwork, and today we're going to look at what I learned in Dr. Zavodny's class, Biology of Sex. And one thing that really struck me is how important it is to pay attention not just to what you're told, but to what information gets ignored or glossed over. Now, when I got to college, I had a shocking realization that I was a hick from the sticks. Now, you'd think growing up in a town of fewer than 2,000 people with less than 100 kids in each graduating class, you'd realize you were a hick from the sticks, but you live in the world you live in and you think it's normal. So I didn't want to be a hick from the sticks. I wanted to be cosmopolitan and sophisticated, like every 17-year-old wants to be. So I was ready to question everything I'd been taught. And this is when I encountered serious abortion indoctrination, even though I didn't realize what it was at the time. I noticed strange things in how Dr. Zavodny taught this class. The first strange thing was when we were looking at embryology. The first 4 weeks, when the embryo goes from a single cell to something that looks like a cross between a garbanzo bean and a tadpole, that was covered in excruciating detail. And then we really quickly glossed through things until we get to 24 weeks, which was the abortion cutoff in Pennsylvania, although I didn't know it at that point. Then again, we started going into a lot of detail. And I did think it was a little bit odd that that same degree of detail wasn't followed the whole way through the class. In retrospect, I can see they want you to think of the unborn baby as something that's between a garbanzo bean and a tadpole. They don't want you to think of it as a baby until it's past the point where it's legal to abort it. But at the time, I just thought it was a little bit odd. The other thing I thought was a little bit odd was this little chart of the comparison of safety of various reproductive outcomes. Everything went from the most dangerous, which was childbirth, to the absolute safest, which was abortion. And I'm like, why would anybody bother with IUDs or birth control pills if abortion is so much safer? There's something here that's weird. I didn't know what, and frankly, at that point, I wasn't even curious enough to look at it. I just thought it was a little off. And the other thing that really got me was the staggering racism that came out of this man's mouth. He talked about how the only reason white people are opposed to abortion is that they know if these little black babies get born, they're going to grow up to rape white women, and then you get to have all the fun of executing them. And I'm looking around and my black classmates are just taking notes. It's like, this guy has pretty much just said that you're not capable of spawning anything but felons, and you're writing it down as if it's the truth. I knew that my classmates, regardless of race, were just as capable of being good parents and raising wonderful kids as anybody else. My roommate was black. My best friend in kindergarten had been black. I didn't understand this attitude. But in the years since then, I've learned that it's pretty common. There's this idea in the pro-choice movement, sad to say, the idea is that black moms just can't raise babies that are going to have a good life. And that's something that shocked me at the time that they could get away with expressing this. And it continues to shock me that nobody calls them on this blatant racism of acting as though you have to have abortion because otherwise you'll have all these black kids growing up to be criminals. Next week, come back and we are going to look at Curiouser and Curiouser.